Shaw, Sunship, Dizzy, and John Kahn, dedicated to pursuing a piece of our cultural heritage through interviews with my music heroes. This is the Jake Feinberg Show. Welcome everybody inside the Brady Broadcasting Studios at 25 East Glen. This is the Jake Feinberg Show, and thank you so much for making me part of your day. My guest today is a lover, leader, and life giver of music. The decisions that he makes correlate to art and relationships because you have to have intimate relationships with cats to make real music. Cats like Dino Danelli, who came up playing swing music with the likes of Lionel Hampton. My guest was part of the Rascals, a rock quartet that produced jukebox hits that the ladies could bob their heads to. The group was deeper than their pop hits. The messages within their music spoke of justice for all, seeing black musicians and Latin musicians being treated poorly, demanding integration at their concerts, knowing their limitations, and winding up in some orgy following a late-night set at the Portchester Theater. After the calliopes have left the circus, you are left with your own island of real. Not the kind of island you see on TV. Commercials, rather one where the animals walk freely amongst the bush, and a swirling Hammond organ drum band are burning their way from Las Vegas to Bearsville. My guest has collaborated with most visceral musicians on the planet. Play from your guts, leave it out in a dream with Steve Cropper or Chuck Rainey, Alice Coltrane and Buzzy Fightin'. My guest understood the value of the accompanist and the session cats in order for the Rascals to play world music. I thought Blue-Eyed Soul came from Boz Scaggs, but in fact it was this group, the Rascals, that fostered the name. A dainty, polite way to say that these cats were more influenced by race records, African roots music, and the Shea Stadium scoreboard. They were not interested in competing with the British invaders' original material, but rather learned on their own experiences, which are rooted in rhythm and blues, and soul, and a blend of symphonic sound. My guest adapted to changing times in both personnel and within the industry, knowing the cats who could help the group sound full. He also took on the burgeoning use of technology using the Moog and the ARP synth to create cosmic waves of consciousness within the ears of the listener. My guest channeled his intensity through meditation, which most likely saved him from the webs of stardom. He knows it's easy to kick a rock down 26 flights of stairs than to walk a boulder up from the mountain. To look yourself in the mirror and detest what you see, but instead of wallowing in self-pity, you find little creases and crevices and family and soul to improve yourself and make the mirror become a peaceful world. Felix Cavaliere, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Welcome. Excellent. Thank you. I really enjoyed that.
Is it
fantastic?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it remotely accurate?
Very. I mean, it's interesting. I just had my life flash before my eyes. Yeah. Cool.
Well, it's an honor to talk to you, man. So thank you for taking the time. I wanted to ask you about Dino Danelli. I read somewhere that when you guys first met up, he had been playing trap set with Lionel Hampton. Is that true?
Well, he was working in a place called the Metropole, and it was a place that you could walk on 7th Avenue in New York City and look in the window and see the band. And it was a kind of a jazz club, jazz, rock club, but he was playing in a venue where Lionel and all those people were playing. He wasn't necessarily playing with them, but it was that atmosphere. And, when I saw him, I saw, before I heard, a show, which, is kind of odd because without hearing his drums, you could see what he was doing up there looked like a magic act.
Mm-hmm.
And when I walked in the door and heard him play, every gesture he did had something to do with the way he was playing the drums, which was really unique. So both as a drummer and as sort of like a performer, it really caught my eye.
Yeah, I remember the Metropole was. I remember interviewing a pianist, Mike Longo, and it turned out that Dizzy, you discovered him there. That was a pretty hot club. You're saying it was rock and jazz in there.
A long time ago, man. But yeah, it was right visible to the street, and yeah, they had some really great talent in there, and you know, again, the jazz was alive and well in those days in New York City.
You know, I wanted to go back for a minute. I'm curious about. Do you think it's a fair statement to say that you were the first one to bring the organ into a rock setting?
Well, there was organ before me, but it wasn't a Hammond necessarily.
Hmm.
You know, the Joey D and the Starlighters group used a Lowry organ, which was different. But the Hammond organ, which again came from jazz roots, I don't believe was that prevalent, before we got there. I'm sure some people had it in England as well, but we really featured it in all of our songs. Whereas, the English groups like Stevie Winwood, I think was in, one of their records, or you know what I'm saying. But that was an integral part of our sound.
Were you exposed growing up to any of the? I'm trying to think like Bill Doggett or Groove Holmes. I'm not even.
Sure.
Not even on record. I'm saying did you see some cats live that sort of blew your mind away? Because I know you were classically trained, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So who?
Yeah, but no, the first guy that I saw playing an organ was a totally unknown entity up in a little town, a little black club in New Rochelle, New York, and it was an organ trio that I never heard anything like that in my life. So it was way before like I was able to go down to see, the what do you call it, Bury the K shows, and I think Howard Freed shows they had in New York City. That was a little after that. I saw this organ first, and it just really captured my attention because, he's playing bass, he was playing rhythm, he was singing, and there was only two other members of the band that sounded like an orchestra. So it really got my attention.
Yeah, no, those. So it was was it a trio or was it just like an organ drum duo?
Organ trio.
It's an organ trio. So then you and Danelli at some point went to Vegas though, right? And you started a duo out there.
No. Basically, what happened is someone approached me. It was kind of a strange gig because she was like a Pia Zadora type person. She was working out in Vegas in a lounge, and she needed a band. And they came to see me, and I introduced them to Dino. So we became part of a band. Actually, I think Lee Greenwood was part of that band, too.
Wow.
It's kind of a weird band.
Wow.
But it was a lounge act. We were a lounge act. We were working at the Desert Inn. It was quite an experience. Very, very different. And it was a whole new world for me,
Can you explain why it was a whole new world?
Well, the name of the group was called Sandu, Scott, and the Scotties. And I had to grow my hair and wear a kilt. So if that's not weird enough for you. And this is the truth. We learned about wearing what they call a sporn and a kilt on stage. Playing an organ sitting down is an interesting experience.
Let me get me in the front row immediately to that. That is classic. That is classic. Why the kilts though? What's that about?
She was her thing was Sandu, Scott, and the Scotties. We were the Scotties. She was dressed up. She was an attractive blonde. As I say, she came from a wealthy hotelier's wife, I believe, and she had this show in a lounge in Las Vegas. Well, it paid more money than either of us had ever seen. So we decided to go. I said, let's go. Let's try it, And I had just met him. So that's really the first, time that we played together. And the only time that we really had any time to really get to know one another is like when we were rehearsing or warming up or something. And that's when we kind of musically fell in love, because there was a real symbiosis between he and I musically. It was really, 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 really special.
I love this. So I want to be clear about the chronology here. You saw him gesticulating in the Metropole and then wound up in Vegas after that. That's the first time you guys collaborated musically.
Yes, I had an idea, I had a group at the time, and my wife, my first wife, she said to me, she said, I know a better drummer, much better. And, she took me to see this guy, and he was definitely, clearly much better, So, it was a life-changing experience, and from then to now, we worked together last year. It was still a joy playing with him,
Right. I just like the fact that you guys linked up. When I saw that he played, I just read somewhere that he played with Hampton, Lionel Hampton, and the reason that I just love Cavaliere so much is because I just feel like you grew up at a period of time, like obviously you guys became stars, you became very well recognized as a band, but I feel like you really understood as a musician, you appreciated the craft, you understood the craft of musicianship, and you honored that with all the people that you wound up on those albums, especially once the band kind of changed forms. I'm just looking at the studio cats you brought in. That to me was
yeah.
the most scintillating thing about you is just the idea of it was this collective. It was this beautiful collective, and I just wish you would talk about that love. I was born in '78, Felix. I mean, this is way, so I'm trying to get back to humanity because we're obviously lacking in we're lacking in humanity now. So just fill in that love for me with Danelli, and then just how I guess your overall philosophy about the craft of the musician, how important that is for the sustainability of humanity and love.
Well, that's just a long topic there, and I really wish we had a lot more time to discuss that. Basically, we were on Atlantic Records, which was a bastion of R&B and jazz. We were one of the first pop acts that they had on the red and black label. So walking through the halls were these giants of jazz, giants. Nobody even knew their name outside, because jazz was and is not a very popular thing. Mm-hmm. But I mean, these guys were so good, it was absurd. And I happened to, Atlantic was a very kind of, family type place. There was no restrictions of recording studios and you can't enter and all this kind of stuff. Everybody just, mingled. Well, I had to talk to these guys, and you realize that they spent years establishing their talent and their virtuosity to make nothing.
Exactly.
And compared to most rock guys, they were light years ahead of them in terms of musicianship.
Yeah, right.
So I said, this is a little crazy, man. So why not let me see if I can get them some exposure on our product. And number two, I want to get a phenomenal solo. You know what I mean? That you have to laugh to say I'm going to pay a session fee for this dude to come in and play this on my record. So it was kind of like a really just a collective kind of thing, as you say, which is again very well put, because you get into the mode of that music is really not just a business. It's an art form and it's a healing form. I mean, I've run into many people over the years now that use sound as healing, and it just became so simple for us to say, hey, Hubert Laws, you want to do a session tomorrow? And, because the guy was right there,
right?
And so there was no I didn't have to reach out far, and the benefit to all of us, and a lot of these guys, they first started off with a little attitude towards the rock and roll guys, and then they started to really appreciate the fact that we were trying to help them. Oh dear, I've got a call coming in. Can you hold a second?
Go ahead, Phil. Go ahead, man. Yep.
All right.
Yep.
That'd be great.
Sure. You still there?
I am. I'm here.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, he wants me to call him back 15 minutes, but we can finish up by then. I hope anyway.
No,
I mean, we'll continue it.
Yeah, no, I mean this is going to be a deep thing, so we'll go as long as we can and figure it out. But
I can call you back.
Yeah.
But anyway, as I say, and then during this period of time, in the 60s, which was such an interesting period. I mean, it was before you were born, but there was so much experimentation with consciousness. I mean, the music was our internet. The way that we were speaking to one another overseas, like the English groups, and we were growing up together, and we were telling each other what was going on in our lives through the lyrics of our music, and the people were listening to it, and they were growing from it, and then the East came in, the Indian influence with the yoga and with the Maharishi and people like that, and I got involved with a guru at that time. And he even made it more specific to me that this was a universal language, and it was our kind of job or our function or our place on earth to spread the word about, the good things, the peace, the love, and the kind of unity. So that permeated my entire being. There's no question about it at that time. I'm one of these guys that I just don't put my foot in the pool. I jump in, and I really became overcome with this idea of, we're all one. And, our music really, I always felt reflected that to a tremendous degree. You got to be tied down by lyrics. That's why a lot of the jazz musicians, they don't have those boundaries. They don't have to worry about getting played on the radio, doing a 3-minute song, or making it, have a storyline. They just send this energy out, and you kind of hope it's all, constructive, good energy. So that's what I was trying to do all those years. And the problem becomes that you are in fact in a business, and you can't really forget that, because after a while, if your popularity wanes, or if you get into like places that, like the rest of the public doesn't understand, or if the advertising budget goes, well, a lot of that doesn't have anything to do with music.
Exactly. No, you're nailing this, man. I want this is I did about a 2-hour interview with McLaughlin, and he was talking about the same period of time when you guys were still kind of fusing in from the Young Rascals into the Rascals, and he was like, we went through this whole thing about altering consciousness without chemicals. And again, he doesn't consider marijuana or LSD, he was talking about harder drugs, just getting away from the hard drugs. And he found Sri Chinmoy, and he became his guru. And I wanted to really talk to you about your guru, because I was thinking, I'm like, Felix definitely partied. I mean, the guy's, come on, he's Italian, in the 60s, he's having a ball. But I guarantee you were feeling the same burn as McLaughlin. And I said, he was probably trying to alter consciousness without chemicals. So tell me about your guru and how you met him, and sort of the profound nature that he instilled in you.
Well, the best story is how I met him, because that was fascinating. It still is. I was reading a book someone had given me called Autobiography of a Yogi. And the last chapter of that, it says, if you want a teacher, ask and he shall come. Okay, well, I believed every word of that book, so I was asked to do a television show. The Rascals were doing a pilot for a fellow who owned a scene in New York City. Steve Paul was his name. He recently passed. But he had the hippest club in New York City. He used to have like Feliciano and Hendrix and Tiny Tim. But the place really wasn't making money a lot. And anyway, he was a good friend of ours. And he said, I've got a shot at a TV show. And I'll try to make this as concise as I can, because it was a life-changing experience.
This is important for younger generations, because I actually want you to tell me as best you can, because for a lot of cats, the lack of attention spans and the belief in digitization and how quickly things. So this is so vital. You need to articulate this.
Well, basically, what happened is the prayer was answered, so to speak. I walk into this TV station. Now, remember, we're a very famous group at this time.
Yes. And
I see this semicircle around this guru. And I just stopped, and I said, okay. I had my road manager there. I said, take this. I'll be right back. And he says, where are you going? I said, just take this. I'll be right back. And I walked into this room, and all these people were sitting down around him, and he was in the center, and he was meeting the people. One at a time, they would come up to his feet. So I got in the line, you know, and the people in the line are all like kind of buzzing. Oh, you know who that is? You know who that is? You know who that is? And anyway, I sat down. When I got to the line, and this makes me very emotional, so I have to contain myself here.
It's all right. It's all right.
You know, when you look in someone's eyes, you can always kind of see where they're at. You know, you can say, "Wow, this cat's like, you know, he's, you know, he's got like a very still personality, or this guy's got like, you know, he's really agitated, or this guy's been drinking." Well, when I got to him and I looked in his eyes, there was nothing there. And I looked at his eyes, and I looked in his eyes, and I leaned forward until finally he said to me, "Sir, would you mind moving on? You're blocking the line."
You were right in his face. I love it.
I could not believe that there was nobody home in this atmosphere that this was created inside this guy's brain, or whatever I was looking at, the cosmos. I was looking into space. And there was no doubt in my mind I was looking at space. And so I just got myself together. I said, "Oh, excuse me," and you know, I did my namaste and I left. Well, when I walked out, you know, to the next state there, I said, "What the hell did I do, man? I made a jerk out of myself." You know, my ego took over, and I said, like, "Oh my God, come on, man, what's wrong with you? You didn't say a word to this guy." You know, so I noticed him going into the men's room. So I said, "Well, hell, I'm going in there." And I went in there, and seriously, like when you get near a person of this saintliness, everything stops. You know, it just became so quiet in there. It was like, you know, obviously another dimension. You know, and instead of me having that bravado, walking in real fast, New York time, I just stopped, you know, and I kind of went up to him and said, "You know, I really would like to talk to you." You know, and he started busting my chops immediately, you know, because these guys have a phenomenal sense of humor. God bless them. You know, they live in this blissful state, and they see this idiot coming in like. So he started teasing me. He says, "Well, oh, you would you?" I said, "Yeah, I really, really would like to talk to you." He said, "Well, let's see, what was the word?" I think he said he had a phone number that was like a trick, you know. Trip something. Trips. That was the initials of the phone call. Trip 459, whatever the hell it was. I said, "What's that?" He said, "It's my phone number." I said, "Yasha, call whenever you can." Trip 500, that's what it was. It was Trip 500 was the phone number. It was a 212 area code.
Right.
And, you know, I said, "Oh," he says, "just call me anytime, and, you know, we'll set up." He had no idea who I was, what I was. He just saw this crazy guy with long hair and come in the room, you know, and really, well, that started a relationship which lasted, actually, it's still there, even though he's not on the planet.
Can you say his name? What's his name?
15 years.
What's his
name?
name?
It was phenomenal. It was just amazing because I was so fortunate to know him and to meet him, you know. And I followed through, and I went through the initiation period, and, you know, I found that, you know, there's really something to this. And then, you know, I followed it even further. I went to England. I went to see George Harrison, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked George, you know, I said, "George, can I ask you a question, please? This stuff you're doing with the Maharishi, this yoga, is it for real, man? Because I'm just getting ready to jump in the pool big time, man. You know, and I don't want to make a jerk out of myself." He says, absolutely. You'll never regret it as long as you are, you know, because George was a really cool guy, man. He was like, you know, very soft-spoken, and, you know, he kind of knew the power and the strength that those guys had in every single word that they uttered in public, you know, which is a heck of a burden to have to, you know, carry. And so then I became involved with him, and I really got pretty serious about it.
What was the name of your guru?
His name was Satchidananda. He was the Satchidananda. He was the Swami who opened up the Woodstock festivities.
I just want to say this is you just painted that picture so just so beautifully. And the thing is, being in the men's room and the guy, I mean, that's what McLaughlin was with Sri Chimnoy. He was in a gym and he raised his hand. He's like, how can I blend my my music with my spirituality? And Shri's like, he's like, John, he's like, it's a nice question, but really, it's really about your intentions. You could be peeling potatoes. You could be sweeping the streets. It's like, how much, what's your effort? What are your intentions? And it's just so profound and it's hard, man. That's the initiation to me for Cavaliere is the guts of where you were at that time. Stardom, partying, you were at a crossroads though, because we're not necessarily at peace. And
Absolutely.
And this is just the most powerful stuff, and you can't get this stuff in the, I don't call it mainstream media, but there is no media. There is nothing like this. My wife is from Asia. She's Taiwanese, so we bring a lot of doctors from India. We bring a lot of scientists over now, but we don't bring those spiritualists. Those spiritualists were coming with Maharishi. Jim Morrison did the same thing you did. He told when I interviewed Densmore said. Jim's like, I'm not going to meditate, but I want to look in his eyes. I want to see if he knows anything. And he looked in his eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
He goes, well, he knows a lot, but I'm not going to meditate. But it was so palpable at that time. And I just feel like.
Yeah, it's really interesting because, it sounds like a fairy tale now, but the thing is that, when you're a member of a group, it's a little different, and especially since I was more or less the leader and the composer of that group, my destiny became the group's destiny. So, you really have to pay attention to, can I go after the world peace, or should I try to make a hit record? Because obviously there's a formula to making hit records. There's a format, and I got 3 other guys dependent on me to a degree. So there becomes like a little kind of a conflict there, And over the years, I got to be honest with you, I used to go to Swami with a lot of the complaints about the people in our industry and the way they behaved, and the fact that really nobody gives a damn about you, unless you're earning money for them. And he really had one time, he said, well, my name is Palita, Paalita. That was my given name.
Beautiful.
Which means protector, protected. He said, why don't you just leave and come with me?
Wow.
And wow.
That's
one of the only times I didn't obey him. I really thought about it. In other words, like leave everything and come to the ashram, man. And you don't have to be a priest or a monk. You can live right off the campus or off the ashram. But the world is the world, and it's not going to change.
Mm-hmm. There was no advice he could give you for what you were talking about. The business is the, and you're right. It's the business of it, and it's just. I just was wondering, was there the question I had was that did you feel like there was ever a point in your career with the Rascals that you were able to blend the spiritual part of just being able to make real music and also create a hit out of that? Organically, a hit came from that. Did it happen?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, can you talk about?
I got to be honest with you. I really felt it was every time we went in the studio.
Wow.
Every time we went in the studio, it was just this, because basically it's not a conscious thing. It's something that like you immerse yourself in in the meditation. You immerse yourself in the tenets of the way he's kind of making you think, so to speak, and then you become it. Because I asked him I would ask him many times, about the world problems, and there's trouble in Gaza and there's trouble over here, and he said, Palita, listen. He says, I gave you a broom. I told you to clean your closet. You want to clean the whole house? He said, come on, dude. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You got to get yourself straight, and then everything else happens from that. In other words, it's just like permeates existence. It permeates everybody around you. And I really, really gotta say, man, the guy saved my life.
He did. I feel like he did.
Our business is terrible. That's all I can tell you.
Well, we got a track here. I wanted to put in a track in honor of your guru. So sit back and listen. We'll come back and talk about it. That's
That's
Cavaliere.
great.
That's Cavaliere on sitar. To me, it's like the dexterity. How did you? Would you just pick one up and start playing it? I mean, when did you learn to play the sitar?
Well, I went to India, and I came home looking like a traveling salesman of instruments. I picked up, a sitar in India is about $5.
Oh my.
You know,
Oh
so I came home with all this stuff. Like, oh my God, I look like a. But I just figured how you can do it. And, I was not very good, but I had the idea, and those days were such fun, man. I mean, you bring back such wonderful memories with that. Plus, there was a mood around. You try to keep that around in your life as long as you can, And out in the material world, it's pretty darn hard. It's really hard.
What do you want to do right now? You need to make a call. I mean, because we barely scratched the surface here.
Well, I think we should make an appointment because, basically what I'm doing an album right now, and I'm kind of got to go to work. But let's see. I'm wondering when would be a good time. Where are you? California?
Tucson, Arizona.
Oh, you're in Arizona.
Yeah.
I got relatives out there.
Yeah, no, actually,
Yeah.
your cousin, Joey Cavaliere.
No, they're from my mom's side of the family. Their last name is Sato Santi, and they had an ice cream store there for a while.
In Tucson?
Yeah. I think it's called Genie's or something like that, or Jenny's. Yeah.
Do you want to yeah. No, I mean, because listen, we got the CEO of Northwest. We got to talk about. I mean, you guys actually. The other thing that's powerful is that you guys stood for social justice, and it kind of cost you guys your entire career, the Rascals, which is incredible. This is what the story is, where you wanted more integrated crowds. There's just so much to cover with you. So, do you want to try?
Well, let's see. What's the best? Let's see. See, you're in the same time zone. I'm in Central here.
Right now. You're 2 hours ahead. So,
that's even easier. Good.
Yeah.
That's easier. What kind of schedule do you have? Let's see. Tonight I'm tied up. Maybe tomorrow night I'm open though. How's your afternoon tomorrow? I think I've got a. I got a session tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I guess I'm thinking like next week, unless you're going to be out of travel.
All right. Well, next week I've got to go to New York on the 13th, and
do you want to do this something on Friday night or the weekend?
I don't know. Let me see what's planned. I'll tell you what. Let's keep in touch. Did my number come up on your?
No. What's your number?
It's 615.
Yep.
498 7800.
All right, man. You go.
We can communicate, and also we can do some email or something, and let's do it in segments.
I know, I love it. I'm doing 3-4 parters with Chuck Rainey, so I mean we're going to continue with Felix. We got a lot more to cover. Thank you, man, for taking the time, brother.
All right, well let's figure out. Let me give you an email also.
Oh, go ahead.
This way we can make a time and just lock it up. We'll do a half hour each time or something, whatever you like.
Let's do it. Go ahead.
It's that name, Palita, Palitha.
Palitha.
Yes.
Okay.
And it's at gmail.com.
Boy, did I hit the sweet spot today. Beautiful, man.
Oh, me too, man. I tell you, I got to get a copy of that introduction because it was really, really wonderful.
And listen, we haven't even talked about that Bearsville album, which, by the way, I just found for like $2.99 with Rundgren. I don't, I mean, this is the heaviest. We got a lot more to do, so we'll be in touch.
All right. Okay. Let's email, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Ciao, brother.
See you.
Peace.